Okay, I'm about to go live on Instagram to uh, go off. Hey y'all, bear with me because I lost my voice over the course of the weekend, essentially just straining to be heard through a mask. But I felt compelled to make this video because I had the absolute worst travel experience with Delta for my trip, but I want to address that this isn't specifically a Delta issue. It's a disability services issue within the structure of airports and travel. So I want to make that clear. I'm not just trying to go hard on Delta, and also preface this with the fact that 99% of the agents at Delta that were assisting me were absolute pleasures and wonderful people. So I want to start with that. Nevertheless, this was like dang near traumatizing. Like after one, my trip that I took was wonderful. That experience was great. The process getting there and the process coming home was exhaustive. It was dang near traumatizing. Like I was virtually like, am I gonna travel again? How am I gonna do this? What does it need to look like? It made me even question like, should I bring all my medical XYZ? Because it was so stressful. And of course I should, like I need this stuff for my well-being, for my quality of life, to stay alive. Especially for my upcoming trip, which is going to be far longer, probably 3 times as long as this past trip. So anyway, that's just a little bit of context, I suppose. So I had a flight Friday and it boarded at about 6:30 and was departing at about 7:30-ish, I think like 7:20. So I've had physical disabilities. I'm a cancer survivor and I have extensive lung issues. And so I've had to require wheelchair assistance for several years now. And I know that the wheelchair assistance process can take a lot of time. So I come earlier to the airport because I don't want any stress, like even earlier than come 2 hours before. I'll come perhaps 3 hours or 2.5 hours prior. Now, this was when I only really required wheelchair assistance because I know that could just take forever. And again, my health was in a different place at the time. This was my first time traveling when I needed like a lot of assistance because my health has declined over time. There's no, I'm virtually working with one lung and it's not really easy to repair those without a transplanted lung. So anyway, things have declined. And this was my first time traveling since, first time with this kind of travel since COVID. And it was a new experience in some ways. So anyway, I had to take all of my medical devices, all my breathing treatments, all that jazz, just to make sure I could keep up with my wellness. So I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible. I wrote some notes and I have it organized by different rants. I shouldn't say rants, but things that need to be addressed, right? So one, let's start off with the wheelchair assistance. I understand it's an airport and that airport is serving a lot of people, but I've had experiences where it sincerely takes forever to be assisted. I accepted that and I just come earlier, but this time, again, it was different because I'm coming in a different physical state. So when I got to the airport, just to carry my carry-on bag and my suitcase, literally just getting into the airport is exhausted for me. I can barely breathe once I breach the doors and it's like, you made it in. And so my first frustration is that it's hard to get assistance when you first get in there. I had to like literally ask anyone, like, hey, I registered for wheelchair assistance when I got my ticket. how do I get the wheelchair assistance? Like, where do I go? And they're pointing me like a block. No, honestly, this time, on the way there, it's like, it's like 2.5 blocks that way where the wheelchairs are. And they're like, oh, you need to go down there. And I'm like, if I could walk that far, I wouldn't need wheelchair assistance, particularly carrying my stuff. You know, this defeats the whole purpose. What can I do? And they're like, well, we can't help you if you aren't checked in. What was the purpose of me putting that into my like ticket order when I selected it if I'm not able to get assistance when I first come in? I don't get it. But either way, even for me to get checked in, they're like, okay, well, you can go up to the agent's desk, or you could go to the clear kiosk, which now this is like a block away, which understandably does not seem like a lot to a lot of you. I'm sure it's nothing. Back in the day, it was nothing for me. What is a block? But as a disabled person, carrying luggage, that is a lot. That is laborious. And you're telling me to go down to this kiosk and stand. So not only take this walk, but now I have to stand there and do this stuff. I basically have one lung. That's not easy. So there was that option. They're like, oh, you could go up to the agent. And so now I need to carry my stuff to the agent's desk and stand there while the agent figures out, you know, what my situation is and tries to assist me. So my qualm there is there's no like curbside wheelchair assistance. Like I didn't even see prompts. Like when my Lyft driver got me there, it would have been helpful to at least, you know, there be directions for like disabled folk, go all the way down to the very end of the terminal, and that's where you'll get your assistance. Because admittedly, yes, if I was all the way down at that door and walked straight in, it would have been the wheelchair folk, and that would be awesome. But how I can't intuit that. I just got a driver and I'm entering the airport. So like at least have some signage or something. If not, you know, someone at the curb or whatever. So that's my issue with just entry. Like, come on, there just needs to be a little more support in that area. So let me try to stick with my notes. Okay, yeah. Oh, and then, all right, some people might say, well, if you need that much help, why don't you bring your own wheelchair? Why would I bring my own wheelchair when I only need assistance in the airport? I don't need a wheelchair where I'm going. The whole purpose of me putting into my ticket order that I need wheelchair assistance is because your airport is big as hell and I can't make it around there. Where I'm going, I don't need a wheelchair. So why am I paying extra money and having extra things to carry when you're allegedly supposed to have assistance for me in this process while I'm in your institution? So no, I don't need to bring my own wheelchair to the airport. That's that on that. You know, what could be done? I don't want to just offer less without a solution, right? Have some sort of process, fix the structure. It would have been awesome if there was anyone like curbside that could assist me. If there were even just like chairs out there and somebody I could say like, hey, I'll need a wheelchair. I don't mind it, whatever time it takes for me to just sit and wait for somebody to do the thing or whatever. But like, there aren't even places to sit. You know, that's just a big concern. So why not just have more chairs available? And even if I had to walk to X or Z, if there were chairs, I could do a little walking, take a break, do a little walk, you know, like that's on me to plan a time to do that. But at least I know I could do it, you know. Right now, it's just such a stressor just to get to the literal very first part of making it to my destination, checking in. And so like, how can we decrease that barrier for individuals and be thoughtful enough to know that, you know, people need assistance once they enter the place? Like, again, I wouldn't need wheelchair assistance if I could make it there, over there, stand there and wait for the, you know, okay. So that's the wheelchair thing. Oh, the second wheelchair thing is now I'm at my gate. I'm super early because I always come early. And this is on my return flight. I'm at my gate. I've been sitting a long time. I walked to, I had like a little food with me, and it was hours before, no, by this time, it was closer to when my gate actually opened. And how can I be succinct? Anyway, at one point, I had to use the bathroom. Excuse me, I'm burping in y'all faces, but I had to use the bathroom. And mind you, I'm traveling alone. I have my carry-on, I have my portable oxygen with me, and I have this food sitting next to me. And I know the rules, I know the laws, like you can't leave your stuff unattended. And if you see something laying around, call security or whatever the case may be. However, as a disabled person, it's extremely laborious to lug all that stuff around. Again, I don't have, personal wheelchair assistants to take me to every little stop along the way. They get you to the gate and they do their thing, which is understandable. And the bathroom was a little ways away, perhaps like about a block, actually. I'm not the best at guesstimating distance, but it was like probably a block away. I can make that just me, Sade, walking to the bathroom, but carrying all that stuff, it was not happening. I could not physically do it. So I went to the agent at the desk for my gate and asked, like, hey, told them what's up. Like, I gotta use the bathroom. I can't take all that stuff with me. I just literally cannot. I know this isn't the rules. I know there are rules in place for a reason, but I cannot take all that. And I need to use the bathroom, and there's no one to watch my stuff for me. So these wonderful people were kind enough to essentially let me slide because they aren't supposed to let me do that. And I went to the bathroom, but that's just another thing to consider. What can be set in place for folks like me who've been waiting at their gate forever, or I don't even have to have been waiting forever, but I just got to use the bathroom. But due to my handicap, if you will, I can't take everything with me. So what are the rules around that? How do we, not make it a stressful thing for folks? Because I went up there immediately feeling like I'm an impediment to the process or to the rules or whatever. And that's not fair to me. Even though I'm disabled, I reserve the right to travel comfortably, period. That's the biggest part in this. I know, I'm aware enough, and I have enough self-confidence to know that I'm not the issue. I don't care what's wrong with me. I have a right to travel comfortably, period. And organizations, institutions, structures need to be more thoughtful about their process in serving consumers. I'm paying money, consumers who are disabled, period, with a capital T. So anyway, that's another thing that needs to be addressed. What do we do about these individuals who can't carry all their things to A, B, blah, blah. Like, what if I wanted to get food somewhere, not even use the bathroom? I want to go invest more into your institution. What do I do with my stuff over here? Is there, and then again, what are solutions? Just have like a little space somewhere, a little corner, a little shelf, handicap, wheelchair assisted belongings, or whatever the case may be. And like, oh, this isn't a B word, not that I'm in the airport, but you know what I'm saying? This isn't bad stuff. This is a disabled individual that we're servicing who needs to take care of their own business while they're waiting for their flight. Okay. I know this is a long post, but I'm not like an influencer or anything. I don't care. If you want to stop watching, you can stop watching. But this is important to me. Like, barely rest well last night because I was so upset about all this. Okay, so that's the wheelchair stuff. The portable oxygen was a whole other ordeal that I'm gonna do my best to be succinct about, but it was absolutely ridiculous. The day before I traveled, I called Delta's Disability Services, or the lack thereof, because I got no one on the phone. I was on hold for so long, just listening to the music and not a single person ever. I was just waiting. And of course, ultimately, I just hung up. So I went through the app and there's a chat option. And it turns out the help chat option is actually a text conversation. So you're now outside of the app and an automated whatever is texting you. So I got the automated assistant and they transferred me to a human, a representative, an agent for Delta. I told them I'm traveling with O2, yada, yada, yada. I just want to make sure everything's covered before my trip and make sure it's registered. You know, I know it's O2, so I got to do something, but I'm not sure what the rules are. So long story short, this person walks me through the process. Actually, the first person said, like, you know, just a little spiel. And now this is important. They said you have to have the proper amount of batteries, and they require that you carry 2 batteries with your O2. That's important. That's what the first person told me. Then the second representative, they basically, they asked, you know, of course, some questions about the device, etc. Asked about how I intended to use the device. And I said, I really just need it like for the airport, but I know I don't need it on the plane because it's for exertion. Like, I think to be as close to the text message as possible, I said, like, I needed to get around the airport, even though that would be like an as needed thing. I didn't intend to have it on all the time, but just so, like, for whatever information they needed, just so they could assume that I would use it in the airport so that if I needed it, it was okay. Does that track? That makes sense to you? But I made it very clear that I don't need to use it on the airplane. I'm only taking it on the airplane because I don't want my O2 bouncing all over the world and end up lost or whatever the case may be. Like, that junk is expensive. So Scott gets all my information and he's like, okay, great. Because if you need it on the plane, you'd have to do some other stuff, but you don't. So you're cool. And gets me, you know, registered or whatever the case may be. Boom, we good. I get to the airport tomorrow. Well, yeah, that day it would have been tomorrow. Anyway, the next day, I catch a lift to my flight and I carried my O2 with me. And I had the cannula, that's the clear thing that you put, you know, over your ears to get the oxygen. I had the cannula on and was using the option in the literal transit from my apartment to the lift and like getting my stuff in the lift and catching my breath in the lift. So I had it on and was using it because I'm moving things, I'm exerting myself, that's what it's for. So then I get to the airport. And mind you, I'm masked, I'm immunocompromised. So I had the cannula on and I had my mask on. I get dropped off in the lift, from the lift, and I cut it off because I had caught my breath and everything. I didn't need it in that moment. I cut the oxygen off, but I left the cannula on under my mask because I'm just trying to get in the airport. Like, it's not necessary for me to take it off and all that, you know. I just need to get in and check in or whatever. So I get, you know, after all the stuff I told you about the wheelchair process of getting in, I make it to a desk and they're like, oh, great. Yeah, we see that you have, we see it in here that your O2 device has been approved. You're, you know, blah, 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 all set. But for some reason, things were taking longer. You're still looking up stuff. I'm looking like, okay, if I'm all set, what's the deal? Why am I still here? Well, it turns out, since I had the cannula on my face when I approached the desk, they have to register it as though I'm going to use it on the plane. So even though in my notes it says I'm not going to use it on the plane, and I'm telling you, the human who owns the device, that I don't need it on the plane, just because I walked up with the cannula on my face, you have to register it as though I'm on the plane. So now this is a whole other process. Apparently, if you are using it on the plane, which I was not going to, and ultimately did not because I didn't need, but anyway, if you're using it on the plane, now you have to have both your batteries but I shouldn't say now, but it's now for me because no one has told me this. Both of those batteries that you bring with your device have to be fully charged at 100. And you can't get on the plane without them being set up like that. So I said, well, how was I supposed to know that? How was I supposed to know that? Secondly, how was I supposed to know that wearing the cannula up here would completely change how y'all process my usage of the oxygen or whatever? And they're like, well, these are the rules. This is it, you know? And I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? And they're like, well, let's check your batteries. We check my batteries, and one, like literally one battery is at like a quarter full. The other battery is like 3/4 full, which, I mean, I'm no mathematician, I'm no wizard, but that sounds like worst case scenario, I have a full battery. Isn't that how it works? 3/4 and 1/4. So they're like, no, each battery has to have 100%. And they're like, our concern is that you're on the plane and you end up, you know, you're using your oxygen and you run out. And yeah, and you run out. You have to have a full battery. And I'm like, for this, it was like a 2-hour flight. I need 2 full batteries for just in case. And anyway, I know there's red tape, I know there's legal stuff, I know there's protocols, etc. At the end of the day, the requirements aren't my issue. It's the fact that this was not articulated to me as the customer. Nowhere in those chats when I called the day before, nowhere did anyone mention battery life. Someone said it has to have 2 batteries. And I was like, okay, cool, because the way the device is set up, the second battery is always connected to it, like the way the bag is. The second battery is always there, and the other battery is literally in there, you know, to be used. So once they said you got to have 2 batteries, I'm like, well, this is thoughtless for me because I always have my 2 batteries on me. So I was just like, check, and I'm done with that part. Nobody mentioned at all the amount of battery that I would need. And this was even farther beyond me because I didn't intend to use the thing during my travels. No way. So why am I making sure it's charged up before I get to my destination when I'm not going to use it? You know, that's me coming from the perspective that's the disabled person traveling with my own ish. And also having made it clear that I don't intend to use it on the plane. So again, now they're talking to me as though I have an issue with the rules. And this was like one of the most frustrating parts. They didn't want to acknowledge or hold themselves accountable for not telling me about the whole, you wore it up to the desk and now we got to change things. The person that I spoke to in the first place should have said, you know, make sure you don't wear that ish in the airport because it changes everything. Or don't wear it to the desk if you don't intend to use it, blah, 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 because these are our rules, XYZ. And like I said, no one ever mentioned the battery life before I got to the airport. So yeah, they were making it seem like I had an issue with the rules, which I found condescending because I'm like, I'm not an idiot. I understand I'm bringing O2 on an aeroplane. That's not beyond me. Y'all don't want to be held accountable for not telling me what was up in the process. This is literally the reason why I spoke to someone the day before to find out what the rules were. It's not my fault you didn't tell me what the rules were. I can't intuit that. I don't know your legalese and your red tape and your protocol, okay? So how was this resolved? They told me, okay, well, you can go sit over there and charge your batteries and then we'll, you know, you're all good, you can fly. Well, one, I don't know how long it takes to charge these batteries. One is only at 1/4, the other one is at 3/4. This is a new device. I have no inference of how long that sucker takes to charge. I came here at 4 a.m. for a flight that's boarding at 6:30, which I feel is plenty of time. And now you're telling me I need to sit and just, you know, just hope my batteries charge in time. So I was like, no, I don't think that's the wisest route to go because I don't want to miss my flight. I don't need this oxygen. This is for exertion and if I feel I need it, you know. But with all this stress, I live around the corner. I could just take this ish home and come back, right? So I said, you know, is that a thing? Is that okay? I don't have time to charge it. Can I just take it home and come back here and get me on my flight? The agent tells me, you're an autonomous individual. We can't control how you choose to flight. So if you want to take it home, how do you choose to fly? So if you want to take it home and come back and just fly regularly, sure, that's not a problem. So I catch a lift home. Mind you, I took a lift there. Now I'm catching a lift home to take my device back. I just dropped that boy on the couch and I catch a lift again back to the airport. I get to the airport and now they're telling me, oh, well, since we have you already in the system as needing oxygen, we can't let you fly without oxygen. But I just asked before I spent my money and left here what the process looks like, what would be required of me. And now you're telling me that I need my oxygen either way. And essentially forcing me, who has control over my body and my needs, to bring oxygen when I made it clear that I do not need it. So they're like, you know, of course, it's legalese, it's red tape, it's this and that, it's for the safety of this, it's for the blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, so what do we do now? And they're like, well, if you bring your oxygen back fully charged, then we can get you on your flight. Okay, so at this point, I'm politely telling them, and this agent, I shouldn't say them, at this point, I'm still working with the one young lady. I politely told her, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in how all of this went down because this is a simple gap of communication. Had someone told me X, had somebody told me Y, Z wouldn't have ever happened, you know? And so at this point, the agent that I'm working with, sweet, trying her best to be helpful. I don't hold it against her. She clearly didn't. She's the same person who told me, you know, we can't control what you do. Go ahead, go home. You grown, basically, in so many words. She's the same one who, who had to come back and tell me, oh, since we have you registered like this, you know, blah, 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 blah. And she apologized. And again, I don't hold it against her. She wasn't sure. Yes, was it a waste of my time and money? Yes, indeed. But, you know, after I started bringing up being disappointed in the disability services, she needed a witness to come and hear my, you know, dispute or what my issues were. So just as I'm telling y'all, I tell this second party person that like all this was unnecessary because I called and spoke to a human that is supposed to be representative of your business to find out what was needed for this to go smoothly. And this has not gone smoothly at all. And I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I feel like I'm being patronized, you know. And so this is what got me a little salty. The witness woman, she's like, she's like, and some of y'all know this, like you've been in conflicts and you've known this, and this sets you on fire. She's like giggling the whole time and like, like laughing as I'm saying what's frustrating to me. That's one thing. And then secondly, she is reiterating the importance to have rules about oxygen on a plane. Again, as though I'm too dense to understand why there are regulations behind this. That is not my problem. Y'all are refusing to be accountable for the fact that you did not tell me this ish yesterday. I don't care what the rules were. I would have followed the rules. If they said you got to hold your oxygen and hop on one foot real quick, then sit in the chair because of legal blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's the rules. I'm gonna lose my voice all over again going off. But it's the fact that y'all did not express, hey, you cannot enter, if you only intend to bring your device on the plane, you can't enter wearing the device because that tells us that you need it. And due to whatever rule, blah, red tape, we have to follow it that way. Had you said that to me yesterday? I know, don't you walk in there with your thing on. So there's that. Also, no one articulated both of your batteries need to be completely full, because I know I'm going to use my device. I know that I don't need battery usage right now. So there, how would I be able to intuit that y'all want my batteries to be full? But again, so she's waxing poetic about, we have this rule, we have that, because the way oxygen does this on the plane, and I'm like, the F, if I care about all that, I understand that, but y'all didn't do what you're supposed to do. So that really frustrated me as well. And then she's gonna say, well, if you had looked on the website, it would have told you that you need both batteries full. Why would I be on the website when I've already talked to a human representative for exactly what's going on here? Why am I doing extra work when it came right out the horse's mouth? And then she's like trying to make it seem like they're doing me a favor by pushing my flight back. My flight that was supposed to be for departing at 7:20 in the morning, that I arrived at 4 a.m. for, they pushed it back to 8 o'clock at night. So I missed the work meeting that was rearranged especially for me so that I could get there in time to rest and make it to my meeting. That's worthless now, because now my flight isn't until 8 in the evening. And now I have to spend more money on a lift back and forth, because I have to go home and charge my batteries for X amount of hours and just hope that my batteries charge in time for an 8 o'clock. And again, this is 2 batteries that need to be charged, and you have to charge it in the device. So there's no like, put one on this charger, put one on that charger. No, one has to charge fully in the device, take that out, put the other one in, and let that charge fully. But anyway, yeah, she made it seem like, they're doing me such a grace because I came with all these issues. And now, look, we're not gonna charge you. We're just gonna do it. I'm just like, well, I'll be, there are more choice words that one would love to use, but it was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So that was the O2 situation. Finally, and this one's a little smaller, but it is also important. I have what's called an ileostomy, because during my bone marrow transplant, I got a really bad intestinal infection. They had to take out a lot of my intestines. And now there's some appliance attached to my stomach to do what intestines can't do. This is the prettiest way I can put it. So my issue with that is that typically when I travel, I go through like the security x-ray thing, and they just have me like rub my stomach, they do a pat down, they wipe my hands, and they test my hands. That already in itself feels intrusive, but I've gotten used to it. I've had this thing for like 12 years. Okay, that's the thing. But every now and then, not only do they stop me and do the pat down in front of everybody and have me wait for results and all that kind of stuff, they're now taking me around the corner to this like closed little closet thing. And mind you, the entire time I'm being forced to like disclose my medical situation and my diagnosis to like 3 different complete strangers, like it's nothing. And it is something to disclose as far as yourself to people, even though right now I just did it for the world, but this is for the sake of advocacy. So disclosure all over the place. I have this is why this, I have this is why this, I have this is why. Okay, pat, 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 pat. People all over the place. What's going on with her? I can't read minds, but I'm assuming like, you know what I'm saying? I'm feeling like just very othered, very seen, very out there. And then it's extra bad when now like security is taking you out of the line and like the walk of shame over to this special area. And now they have to like really get all up in my business. And so what's this for? And it's just extremely intrusive. And it made me feel like honestly criminalized. Like I did something bad and it's like, ooh, we better go. You know what I'm saying? And like, what else came up? Yeah, I just felt really called out. And like, I don't know, it's just, it was a very uncomfortable situation. And this has happened more than once. And I understand it's security, there are rules, they need to have an, understanding of what you bringing on, what's in the appliance, whatever the case is. I get that, but I just feel like there has to be a better way, there has to be a better way. And like, just like with the wheelchair assistance, what is the purpose of me buying the ticket and putting wheelchair assistance needed in my, order or whatever, if at the end of the day, it's for them. It's for them. Wheelchair assistance being put in the app beforehand ain't got nothing to do with me. It's just so that they can know, but it does not at all change like the quality of the experience or the amount of assistance that you receive. And likewise with this ostomy situation, okay, I'm upset, I'm going off, and it hurt my feelings. It's just an extremely uncomfortable process as a disabled individual. And I understand there are rules for safety, but like, what can we do about this so that this isn't such an intrusive experience for me? Why not also have, if you're gonna have like disability options in the app, why not also have an option for like these are, other circumstances or whatever, other things that need to be sussed out when this person goes to TSA. And then the person who's transporting me in the wheelchair, perhaps he could have just taken me straight to the little behind the glass thing so that they could check before and then put me in line through the thing, rather than like going through this whole process of like everybody watching all this fuss, all these layers of transit to figure out what the heck is going on with my body, And then also, if it's already in the app, okay, that's one disclosure that I've had to make about my personal medical care. And the app should be proof enough that when the wheelchair person takes me to the special little closed area, that all they need to see is that she has valid reason. I don't need to tell them all my business. They just need to see that I have reason. And do they pat down or whatever, and we good, So I think, yeah, one, consider just a better way, and two, standardize it so that with every Delta experience I have, it's not different. Why we going from swipe on the hands to I'm going to the back and, being treated as though like I tried to sneak a knife in my stomach or some mess like that. So at least whatever you do, standardize it so I don't have to wonder like, what's going to happen this time? How much added time should I put into my expectations for the flight, So, okay. I think that's all the things. And this is stuff going and coming back home. It was exhaustive. It was uncomfortable. The amount of money that I spent on Ubers and Lyfts over the O2 crack, absolutely ridiculous. I feel like Delta owes me. That was my time wasted. I did my part as a consumer and, called and spoke to somebody prior to coming. And now my 7:20 a.m. flight is an 8 p.m. flight and y'all acting like you doing me a favor. That was ridiculous. What about the amount of money I spent catching lifts back and forth? I caught like 5 lifts within the span of 4 a.m. and 8 o'clock at night. So it was ridiculous. It really made me not want to travel with all my crap. Honestly. Thanks Ola. I was trying to make this short, but like, it would be remiss not to say something when the organization I work for is literally fundamentally all about medical advocacy. So again, this was Delta specifically. I'm calling them out, but the agents, again, 99% were absolutely sweet. They're just working with what they have, with the structure that they're in. And the structure is not properly set up to service individuals like me in a compassionate and sympathetic way. I felt like an afterthought. I felt I felt like throughout the whole process, like I was an impediment on them in some way. And I don't deserve that. I don't deserve it. And other people don't deserve it. I'm not the only person in the world with lung issues. I'm not the only person in the world who just has ish going on. So this can't be the first time that someone has had this frustration. And oh, thanks, Ola. Did you complain to corporate? I just got back last night. And so I do intend to. My mom's been looking into it and making some contacts. So like I kind of have like a starting point to work with. I think I need to like write a letter and provide some receipts and stuff like that. But I'm definitely gonna say something 100% because this was so uncalled for. So uncalled for. Like the amount of stress. I'm telling you, it's so stressful. And like sincerely, when I was processing everything, I'm rethinking my entire travel process. Like, how can I make this, and this is the individual, the disabled individual in me now figuring out what changes can I make so that my next, travel experience isn't so stressful, so that when I arrive to wherever I'm supposed to be, I'm not in the worst emotional state ever. Like that's so uncalled for. And yeah, a major part of it is the fact that I understand if for some oblivious reason I just grabbed my O2 and winged it, like, oh, okay. But no, I called and they failed at telling me what was required of me. And then with all these other things, it's just thoughtless. It's just thoughtless. These institutions feel like, well, we got wheelchairs, we did it. No, no, there are small things that add to the experience for someone like me. And like I said before, at least just have more chairs around. Think about this, y'all. When you go to the airport, how many chairs do you see just for someone to sit and catch their breath? Like you don't even need to have dang near one lung like me. Just think about our older folk who, I mean, praise God, can get around, do whatever they have to do, but they might want to take a sit and have a breather at some point when you got folk going miles to gates and stuff. It's just about being considerate. And like small things, small changes they can make, like proper signage. If when my Lyft driver first pulled up, if he could see that wheelchair assistance is down here, then I would have told him to go down there. But now I'm at this door and you're telling me to go 2 blocks that way so I could get assisted. And I'm like, do you hear what you're saying? I'm telling you that I need wheelchair assistance and you're telling me to walk like 2 blocks away. And the whole time I have to be like understanding and compassionate and nice. Oh, they don't understand what I'm going through. Oh, they don't blah, 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 blah. Let me keep the smile on my face. And, ain't nobody trying to help you if you got an attitude problem. That's just how it is. But yeah, it's unfair to put on, it should not have to be this way. I reserve a right to travel when and wherever the hell I want. And it should not have to be a traumatizing experience. If this was my first time traveling as a disabled person, I legitimately might have just been like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this again. That was way too much, way too exhausted. So, okay. I think that's all. That's all that I wanted to share. And again, this isn't like a pretty post. It doesn't have stuff popping up or music or anything like that. But I would appreciate it if y'all shared it just so that people could be held accountable and that, the advocacy part of it and sharing this experience for disabled folks, because we're clearly an afterthought in the structure of airports and it just isn't cool. All right. Oh, oh, let me look at the post. Send emails, calls, and write. Yes, ma'am. Sounds like a new department Delta needs to hire you for to make a difference for you and people that have the same situation. You should call a diversity and inclusion group too. To make traveling a better experience for people with disabilities, because every disability isn't the same. Exactly, you know, like I'm not trying to head a division or something. I'm already busy with the work that I'm doing, but absolutely, like I don't mind being part of a focus group. I think they can gather individuals from different disabled experiences, different walks of life, etc., and just find out like, hey, what are your struggles with the airport experience? How can we make that better? And it's their job to figure out how they can better accommodate us so that other people don't have to deal with the fluster cluck that I had to during this past weekend. So I appreciate that, Ola. And I'm definitely gonna include that with the complaint I filed. And the wild thing is like, this isn't really expensive stuff. This isn't like a drastic change in the paradigm. It's like, just be more thoughtful. Y'all make so much money. How much does it cost to put up some more signs? How much does it cost to have more chairs around? How much does it cost to have educated agents that understand the process? Like that woman should have been, she should have been prepared enough to say like, oh, if we have you in the system as needing oxygen, it don't matter if you go home or not or whatever, the deed is done. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, that wasn't her fault. She was like, she inferred the same thing I would infer. Like, you a grown person, you can make your own choices. If you don't want to bring oxygen, don't bring oxygen, come back and just fly. So I get that. I'm not mad at her. And again, I want to stress the agents were wonderful, all except that witness person who was patronizing, condescending. What are some other words? Dang near rude. I don't want to say dang near rude. Well, I guess being patronizing and condescending is rude in itself. But I did not enjoy my interaction with her. And again, she wasn't like being spicy, rude, like, nah, 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 but just like really trying to make it seem like I'm the person who dropped the ball somewhere. So yeah, that's why I said 99% of the agents were wonderful. Her, I could have lived without her because she was really trying to like vouch for Delta and basically minimize my experience. And I hate to be cliche, but or like, oh, I'm so tired of everybody using this word. But I did feel gaslighted too. She was trying to just make me think that my experience wasn't real. Like there was no validation in it. So anyway, this is my third time saying I'm done, but yeah, this was ridiculous. I don't want this to happen to other folks. And so I had to say something. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thanks for the feedback and information on, you know, things that I can offer whenever I speak to these folk. And I have stuff to do today. I have to orient myself back to being home and all that ish. But I needed this to look, now my hair doing all sorts of things. I had to like get this off my chest because I couldn't rest well. That's how frustrating it was. I slept, but it was like, you know, that just very light sleep. Like I barely got into any room because it was weighing so heavily on me. The injustice of it all, frankly, it just wasn't right. And no one needs to be treated that way. Okay. Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all. As always, you're gonna have to see me fumble trying to close it out.